When you turn 60, something subtle, but deeply important, begins to shift. Not in your bones, not in your skin, but in the invisible structures that once made you feel safe. Support, dependability, family. Things that once felt solid begin to loosen. The truth is, the older you get, the more you realize how fragile those old assumptions were. You used to believe, maybe without even thinking about it, that your family would always be there, that your children would show up, that friends would stick around, that the people who mattered most in your life would continue to be your anchor, no matter how rough the water got. But something happens after 60. People get busy, priorities change, health shifts, and for many, that circle of support quietly begins to shrink. Not because people stop loving you, but because life simply moves in directions you didn't plan for. And one day you look up and realize, the net you thought would catch you isn't there anymore. That's what this video is about. This is not about replacing family. It's not about closing yourself off or giving up on people. It's about building something stronger, smarter, more stable, a life supported by pillars that don't sway when someone forgets to call, that don't fall apart when plans change or when people pull away, not out of malice, but because they're overwhelmed with their own lives. I want to walk you through 6 essential pillars that every person over 60 should be building. Pillars that are stronger than sentiment, stronger than assumptions. Pillars that will carry you through this stage of life with dignity, clarity, and independence. Let's begin with the first, and perhaps most underestimated, pillar of all. Your financial stability. At this age, the most reliable support you will ever have isn't a person. It's your money, and more importantly, your relationship with it. This doesn't mean wealth. It means preparedness. Because after 60, financial security becomes less about accumulating wealth and more about protecting your freedom. The freedom to make decisions without asking permission. The freedom to seek care, to move, to rest, to explore, or to simply live without feeling like a burden on anyone else. Think of Richard. He's 72. All his life, he assumed that if things ever got hard, his children would help. He helped them through college, paid for braces, even bailed one of them out during a divorce. He figured, if anything happened, if his savings ran out, they'd return the favor. But when a medical emergency drained his bank account, he was forced to ask for help. And what he heard surprised him. "I wish we could, Dad. We're just not in a place to help right now." It wasn't cruelty. It wasn't neglect. It was reality. His children had their own bills, their own families, their own mortgages and college loans. They loved him, but they couldn't support him, not in the way he thought they would. That's when Richard learned the hard truth. Relying on family for financial rescue isn't a safety net. It's a gamble, and it doesn't always pay off. Financial stability isn't about pride. It's about power. The power to make decisions that protect your future, to navigate illness without panic, to pay for support when you need it, rather than waiting for someone else to offer. So ask yourself, right now, do I have a clear understanding of my income and expenses? Have I prepared for unexpected medical costs? Am I living within my means, or hoping it'll somehow work out? Do I know where my money goes each month? If any of those questions feel uncomfortable, that's your signal. Not to panic, but to plan. Because the money you control is the independence you protect. This might mean creating a simple budget, downsizing, speaking to a financial advisor. It might mean adjusting expectations. Not as a punishment, but as an act of liberation. Every step you take to understand and manage your finances after 60 is a step away from dependence and toward freedom. There's a truth most people don't speak out loud, but once you hear it, you never forget it. After 60, your body is either your greatest source of freedom or your greatest source of fear. And the hard part, no one can protect it for you. That brings us to the second essential pillar, your physical health. You can have money in the bank, people who love you, a house filled with memories, but if your body begins to fail, your world gets smaller, slowly, unforgivingly, one missed step at a time. We don't talk about this enough, especially in families. We assume that if our health declines, someone will be there, a son, a daughter, a spouse, a neighbor. But what happens when they're not, or when they want to be, but simply can't? Carl was 68 when he retired. For most of his life, he had been active, walked to work, played pickup basketball on weekends, helped his wife in the garden. But after retirement, something shifted. The movement stopped. Days became slower, meals more convenient, nights a little stiffer. He always said he'd get back in shape. Next month, he'd tell himself, when I feel more rested. But next month didn't come. Within 2 years, Carl found himself out of breath walking from the bedroom to the kitchen. He needed help getting in and out of the car. He didn't recognize his own legs, not because they were older, but because he had stopped using them. His children cared, they visited, but they couldn't be there every day, and they couldn't make his body move. That's the truth about health. It's the one support system that no one else can maintain for you. And yet, it is the most powerful pillar you have. You don't need to train like an athlete. But after 60, movement is non-negotiable. Your muscles, your balance, your joints, they all depend on daily signals from your nervous system. When those signals stop, the body forgets. And what was once a small ache becomes a chronic limp. What was once stiffness becomes a fall. But here's the good news. The body remembers how to heal, if you give it a reason to. Start simple. Take a 10-minute walk after dinner. Stretch while the kettle boils. Put on music and move your body, even if just in place. Your goal isn't perfection, it's circulation, momentum. A message to your brain and bones that you are still living, not just existing. And food? It matters more than ever. At this age, every bite is either medicine or a missed opportunity. Lean into what heals. Reduce what inflames. You know the list already. Fruits, vegetables, whole foods, water. This isn't about trends, it's about giving your cells a fighting chance. And if you've been ignoring signs, that nagging hip pain, the fatigue that's crept in, the sleep that doesn't restore, stop dismissing them. These aren't just old age, they're check engine lights. Respect them. See your doctor. Ask hard questions. Get your screenings. You're not being difficult, you're being wise. Because here's the truth. Independence is physical. Can you get out of a chair without help? Can you carry your own groceries? Can you walk to the mailbox and back with ease? If the answer is no, your freedom is already at risk, whether you see it or not. But it's not too late. Your health is not set in stone. The body is astonishingly responsive, even at 60, 70, 80. Every small effort adds up, and every healthy choice you make today reduces the chances you'll have to rely on others tomorrow. So ask yourself now, with love and honesty, have I been taking care of this body like it's my only home? Or have I been waiting quietly, hoping that someone else will pick up the pieces when things go wrong? Because no matter how much your family loves you, they can't exercise for you, they can't eat better for you, and they can't turn back the clock if you wait too long. You deserve strength. You deserve energy. You deserve to move through the world with ease. And that starts now, not someday. There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from peace. It comes from absence. After 60, many people find themselves alone more often than they expected. The phone rings less, invitations slow, and the people you used to see every week start showing up only in photos or memories. That brings us to Pillar 3, one of the most underestimated yet most critical forms of support in later life. Your social circle. You may assume family will always be your anchor, but here's the truth. Your children have lives, careers, families, pressures you may never see. And while they may love you deeply, they cannot be your entire emotional ecosystem. Relying on them alone for connection, for conversation, laughter, stimulation, will leave you lonely. And loneliness is more than a feeling. It's a risk factor. Research shows that chronic loneliness increases the risk of heart disease, cognitive decline, depression, and even early death. It's not just unpleasant, it's dangerous. So let's be honest. Have your friendships shrunk in recent years? Are there people you once spoke to weekly that you haven't heard from in months? Have the routines that once kept you engaged, church, work, coffee with friends, slowly disappeared? You're not alone in that experience, but it's not something you should accept as inevitable. Consider Margaret. She's 73, a retired librarian. For years, her life revolved around her sons. She helped with the grandkids, hosted every birthday. Always available, always giving. But slowly the visits slowed. Her sons became busy. Not neglectful, just busy. Margaret started noticing how many evenings she spent alone. How many weekends went by without a knock at the door. At first, she told herself it was just a phase. But eventually, she realized she needed to build something new. So she started saying yes. Yes to a book club at the community center. Yes to an old friend who invited her to a walking group. Yes to a weekly coffee with a neighbor. These weren't dramatic changes, but they brought something back into her life she hadn't realized she was missing. A sense of being seen. That's what social connection gives you. Not just conversation, but recognition. A reason to put on your shoes. A reason to get out of the house. A reason to share your stories and hear someone else's. It's not about how many friends you have. It's about whether you have people who know your name, who would notice if you didn't show up, who'd ask how you're doing and mean it. So ask yourself right now, when was the last time you laughed with someone who wasn't family? Do you have at least one person you could call just to talk? No crisis, no agenda. Is there a regular place you go where people expect to see you? If not, it's time to take action. Start small. Reconnect with an old friend. Visit your local senior center. Try a new class, even if it's outside your comfort zone. You don't have to make a best friend overnight. But you do need touch points, moments of interaction that keep you mentally and emotionally alive. And if you're shy or not sure where to start, remember, many people your age are feeling the exact same thing. They're just waiting for someone else to break the silence. Be that someone. You have decades of wisdom, humor, and life experience. Don't keep that to yourself. Share it. Build new bridges. You're not too old. It's not too late. And the world still needs your voice. Because at the end of the day, one of the most powerful forms of support is not financial or physical. It's emotional. And emotional nourishment comes not from being surrounded by people, but from being truly connected to a few. There's a certain kind of ache that doesn't come from the body. It comes from the absence of direction. It's the feeling of waking up and not knowing why. Not because there's nothing on the calendar, but because the roles that once defined you are no longer there. You're not going into work. You're not raising children. You're not needed in the same way. This is where pillar 4 begins, and it may be the one most people overlook. Your sense of purpose. After 60, your purpose can no longer come from obligation. It must come from intention. It's easy to think that once you retire or your kids move out, the meaningful part of life is behind you. But that's a lie we've all been sold. The truth is, meaning doesn't end. It just changes its shape. You might not be a provider anymore, or a caregiver, or a daily problem solver. But you're still a teacher, a witness, a guide. You still have something to give. And when you find that something, your days will stretch open again. Think of George, 71. He spent his whole career in engineering, problem solving, building, teaching teams. Then he retired. At first, he enjoyed the rest. But after a few months, he felt something gnawing at him. His days felt long. His energy faded. He said it best, "I was rested, but I didn't feel alive." Then George started volunteering once a week at a local high school, helping with robotics. He wasn't paid, but every Thursday he had a reason to wake up early, get dressed, and show up with something to offer. His eyes lit up again. That's what purpose does. It lights you from the inside out. It doesn't have to be grand. You don't need a new career. But you do need something that makes you feel useful. It could be gardening, teaching, writing, making art, mentoring someone younger. Purpose isn't about busyness. It's about belonging to something larger than just yourself. And that leads us to pillar 5, the quiet strength beneath it all. Emotional resilience. Because let's be honest, this stage of life isn't easy. You lose people, your body changes, friendships fade, and some days it feels like the world is moving on without you. Emotional resilience is what keeps you steady. It's the ability to feel grief and keep going, to face disappointment without crumbling, to be honest about your pain, but not be ruled by it. Take Helen. She was 75 when her husband of 40 years passed away. The loss gutted her. At first, she leaned heavily on her children. But she began to sense something. They were grieving too, and trying to hold up their own lives. That's when Helen decided to do something few people are brave enough to do. She stopped expecting others to carry her pain. She started therapy, began journaling, took quiet walks every morning, and spoke to her late husband aloud, not to cling, but to release. Over time, her sorrow softened, not because it disappeared, but because she had learned how to carry it without letting it define her. That's emotional resilience. It's not being cheerful all the time. It's having tools, practices, a way of returning to center when life throws you off. And here's the secret. The stronger your emotional resilience, the less dependent you become on others for comfort. Not because you stop needing love, but because you've built a home inside yourself where peace lives, even in the storm. Ask yourself, when I feel overwhelmed, do I shut down? Or do I have ways to process it? Do I depend on others to lift me every time I fall? Or have I learned how to stand back up gently, on my own? Because at the end of the day, the most dependable support doesn't always come from outside. It comes from inside, from meaning and mindset, purpose and peace. There's one truth about aging that's often ignored, but it quietly determines everything. Nothing stays the same. People change, roles shift, health fluctuates. The routines you depended on for years can vanish in a day. And in that space of change, one question rises louder than all the others. Will you adapt, or will you resist? That's what brings us to the 6th and final pillar of true support after 60. Your ability to adapt. Adaptability is not a personality trait. It's a survival skill. And the older you get, the more essential it becomes. You see, the people who struggle most in later life aren't the ones with the fewest resources. They're the ones who refuse to change, who cling to old routines, old roles, and old expectations, even when life is clearly moving in a different direction. But the people who thrive, they're the ones who say, okay, that door closed. What else is possible now? Take Frank, for example. He's 78. For most of his life, his world revolved around face-to-face friendships, morning coffee at the cafe, neighborhood strolls, holiday gatherings. But slowly, those familiar faces began to disappear. Friends moved. Some passed away. The cafe closed. And suddenly Frank felt the walls closing in. At first, he told himself, this is just how it is now. I'm old. I'll have to accept being alone. But one day, instead of giving in, he picked up a flyer at the library about a local online history group. With help from his niece, he learned how to join a video call. The first session felt strange. The second felt better. By the third, he was laughing with strangers who quickly became friends. That's what adaptability looks like. It doesn't mean you have to love every new thing. It just means you stay open, curious, willing to learn, willing to change, even just a little. Adaptability allows you to say yes when life offers you something unexpected. A new technology, a different routine, a move, a shifting who shows up or who no longer can. It allows you to say, this wasn't the plan, but maybe this isn't worse. It's just different. And here's the quiet truth about support after 60. If you build all 5 pillars, money, health, connection, purpose, resilience, but refuse to adapt, life will still catch you off guard. But if you embrace change, even in small, steady ways, you'll discover that aging doesn't have to feel like loss. It can feel like evolution. So ask yourself, have I become rigid in how I think life should look? Or am I still willing to pivot, to try, to grow? Because life after 60 doesn't reward the most experienced. It rewards the most flexible. And that flexibility, paired with everything you've already built, creates a kind of stability that no one can take from you. Let's recap what you've built. Pillar 1, financial stability. Not wealth, but the freedom to make your own decisions. Pillar 2, physical health. A body that supports your independence. Pillar 3, social circle. People beyond your family who make you feel seen. Pillar 4, purpose. A reason to wake up with energy and direction. Pillar 5, emotional resilience. The strength to move through life's hard moments without collapsing. Pillar 6, I understand what being. Pillar 6, adaptability. The grace to change when the world around you changes. If you have these in place, you will never be fully alone. Never powerless. Never without options. You won't have to hope someone shows up to save you, because you've already done the work to stand tall. Yes, family matters, deeply. But real stability comes from what you build inside yourself and around yourself. Quietly, intentionally, pillar by pillar. And if you're missing one of these right now, that's okay. That's why we're here. To notice, to adjust, to grow. Because as long as you're breathing, it's never too late to strengthen the foundation beneath your life. If you're still here, thank you. Type Pillar 6 in the comments, so I know you stayed with me till the end. And tell me, which of these 6 are you already strong in? And which one are you going to work on next? If this helped you, please subscribe and turn on notifications. We create content every week to help you age with clarity, dignity, and power you've spent your life giving to others. Now, it's time to give that strength back to yourself.